Ho! Hey, hello! I'm meant to do some speaking up. Alright, and... Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast for Empathy and Imagination. My name is Drew Clark, and I'll be with you on your journey towards empathy as we pass through. I'm here today with my dear friend, esteemed colleague, musicianal expert, and longtime American hero, Neil. Neil, welcome to the podcast for Empathy and Imagination again. This is actually your second appearance.
It is.
So, the iteration is different this time.
Okay.
Here we are with kind of a different setup. You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And we have dogs this time.
Yeah, dog's good. You can pet the dogs.
Yes.
We have a little bit of beer and some good vibes. And we're here chilling. And it's like, there's been some things on my mind. And it seems like this is probably a good space to see if I can work them out. Like, recently, I told you, I've been coming into contact with thinking about the billionaires of our world and the philanthropy they do. And I was encouraged recently by the episode from on Netflix. What's his name? Hassan. He does the show, and they're talking about billionaires and philanthropy and does it work and where does it not work, and it was like his point essentially was like that if you are a billionaire and you do some philanthropy, often it's to do a little bit of damage control to what your business actually caused in the first place. So there's just like, it's this weird, in their opinion, it was like this weird sort of like public image forward facing element about like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We've done this much for malaria and this much for education, and in the details we found, I learned this morning was like most of the money spent by Bill and Melinda was to fight with lobbyists and lawyers against what was voted upon by the people in, like, say, Washington, for example. Like this education bill, like he was trying to get this thing pushed through and it was voted against, and then it failed like in 3 separate ways, and every time he hired more lawyers and more money to try to make it so that he could have these charter schools, even though people didn't want them. And so his philanthropy was essentially going against the will of the voter. So it's like, what? This is just, I'm going to get you in on this, and I have a lot more to say, but let me hear you respond to that.
Yeah, I think, I need to open another beer.
Okay, crack that bad boy. There you go.
Wouldn't it be nice to have so much damn money that you could throw it where you wanted and you can use it to influence politics and everything? It's funny you mentioned Bill Gates, because I've used that, for example, for a long time. Remember, a long time ago, he gave like $1 billion. I think it was for malaria, his foundation.
Yeah, he's famous for that.
And everyone was like, holy shit, $1 billion. This was one of the largest gifts anyone's ever given, or something like that. But he was worth $50 billion at the time. So $1 billion was like 1/50th of his
entity
assets.
Yeah.
1/50th of my assets, I think, is a couple $100, right?
Yeah, seriously.
And I'm sure I give that away to causes all the time, but no one's naming fucking colleges after me and shit like that,
Yeah.
So I just think sometimes we have this false sense of, oh, these rich people, they're so wonderful because they give, but I mean, really, how much did that hurt for them to do that? And now, like you say, they use their charities also to influence things and do other things. It's nice, but I think we idolize it too much. I think I think each of us gives more of our wealth. People who actually work and struggle give more of our wealth to causes than these rich people do.
Well, that's
their
been
numbers
proven.
are just bigger. That's
Right.
all, right?
Right.
And I think it was Steinbeck who said, like, if you ever need help, go to the poor people because they're the only people who will help you. And we still give this great like adoration to these people who give all this money, and then they get to run it like a little kingdom and do what they want with it.
I've not heard that phrase before. That's moving to me. That if you ever need help, go to the poor.
It's absolutely true. That
I
was
never thought of
Steinbeck.
it.
I think
That's
it's
like-
from Grapes of Wrath. He said, they were the only people who will help you.
People there down by the river, they're happy to give.
Yeah.
Big wheels keep on turning. Proud Mary,
Yeah.
keep on burning. Yeah. People by
You
the
ever-
river are happy to give.
I told you I lived in LA for a while. You ever driven through like Beverly Hills?
Uh-uh.
Like if your car broke down in Beverly Hills at night,
Oh, you're
you're
fucked.
screwed.
Yeah.
No one's gonna help you. You can't go knock on their gate going, "Hello, can
Yeah.
you call the tow truck for me?" It's not gonna happen.
But their response might be, "Don't you have a cell phone?
Mm-hmm.
Where's your cell phone?
What'd you have, car service?
Why aren't you floating here in a rich bubble?" Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's nice. I think it's great, and it was a real proud thing. I think the term is noblesse oblige, like the obligation of the rich or the nobility to help people less fortunate. It's like,
Well,
hey,
that's
yeah,
back to our capitalism.
and that like I think of like the Kennedys, and that's all the kids in the Kennedy family like were public servants, like died, and everything because of this noblesse oblige. We are fortunate. We live well, and we benefited from that by being in this system and in this country. We need to give back and help other people as much as we can. And I don't think that's there as much anymore. I think it's PR, tax write-offs, and galas.
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 Have you been to a gala?
No, I think that's the first time I've ever used that word.
Well, gala's the way I've heard it pronounced in the past, but gala is how rich people say it.
I
right?
think so. I think so.
So that's why we enunciate this way.
Well, it's a class system.
It is a class system. I think about like another topic in this arena was like Jeff Bezos, and he's famous for having personally earned $130 billion. He recently had a divorce with the woman he was married to, and the story is she gets half. It's $70-something billion or
No.
close to that. What's it?
I don't know.
It's
I thought he was worth like a quarter of a trillion.
No,
It's like
it was only
250
138 billion when he got divorced.
only.
Yeah.
Oh, a shame.
But he makes
That poor
like
bastard.
500K an hour or something like that. So he'll be okay.
Right. When he's
He's gonna-
sleeping, he makes that much.
Oh yeah.
When he's awake.
it's like 2.5
Well,
million.
the only thing I will say, like, I don't know anything about it, but for all we know, his wife was the brains behind the whole thing. He might be a complete freaking idiot.
We'll
for all
find
we
out,
know.
won't we?
Maybe we won't. It's probably a non-disclosure agreement.
That she just keeps running the business even though they're divorced.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, but he's got so much money. I mean, if you got 130 billion and you got to lose half of it, what? What? Are you
What
gonna-
in your life
are you gonna
changes?
cut back on the ramen you buy every month? I
No.
mean, what the?
No, there's no change. And this was the point that I thought was interesting. Was like he started a company called Blue Origin, and I know that there's a trend in billionaires, Virgin, Elon.
Sure.
This is a normal
And
thing.
what is that?
Your first response was ego.
Yeah.
You feel that it's
Yeah.
the ego of these men to do this.
No, I honestly, I don't believe that they think they're going to save humanity by opening up space. Or I think it's it's like a James Bond villain thing. I'm going to create a rocket and a moonraker, and we will. I don't know. I mean, it's nice. I love space. Believe me, I'm a huge fan. But we have NASA. We could fund that, but we don't.
Right.
So his priority. So hey, yeah, what the hell? This guy's got a whole bunch of money lying around. Let's
He
let
funded
him.
it.
Let's let him play with rockets for a little while because
Well, so say the Bezos example. He starts Blue Origin, which may catch up to SpaceX. So far, no. SpaceX had like quite a bit of an advantage, and it's already a technology company. I guess Amazon as well. But my point is, if I was him, that makes some sense. Like that's almost like, I'm sure he's doing other evil shit. But to me, if I were him, I would probably start a space company too.
you know who else started the space company that I admire a lot?
Who?
John F. Kennedy. with NASA, and he was the first man said we're going to go to the moon someday, and everyone said, "Oh, you're freaking crazy."
He fucking did it.
And he put it in, and it was because of taxpayer dollars. We did all this legwork, all this groundwork, and now these guys with all this money are going to go, oh, I'm going to make it a little better, and then put a hotel up in orbit.
JFK, when he put or helped to decide to put people on the moon, that cost as much as building the entire highway system in the U.S. Same price.
I believe it. I believe it.
So I'm glad he did it because it's magical and amazing, but like that was a huge waste of money. But not waste. It was a huge use of money.
No, I would totally disagree because of so many of the advances that we benefit from now because of the research that was done for space travel.
Go on.
Insulating materials, better batteries, better camera optics, all sorts of solar stuff. All that stuff came out of because of taxpayer-funded NASA scientists and grants to colleges and universities and professors. Huge nutrition, all sorts of stuff, agriculture, things.
So were the highways a waste of money?
No, absolutely not.
So they were both worth it. Investment.
Yes,
I
think so.
I agree.
And what was it, a couple bucks out of our parents' pockets at the time?
Very few.
Yeah.
Very few. Okay, so you're pro space.
I am. I have no problem with space whatsoever.
You're pro philanthropy, or do you have qualms? Because I have some qualms.
Of course, I'm pro helping other people out.
Well, like,
I mean, like rich
the Bill
people
Gates Foundation fighting legally to go against voters, or like the Blue Origin Company, who's basically like a redundancy of something that I hold very dear. If humans can become a multi-planetary species, that's like, I can die happy.
Yeah.
Like, that's important to me. We as humans need to move off of Earth eventually. And as many people trying to make that happen as possible, I kind of see as a best case scenario.
Right.
Also, I was telling you this earlier too, like, if I came in contact with a fortune, if all of a sudden I was in charge of like 25 or 30 million dollars, my idea for years has been to go into East Oakland, get a warehouse, build a 10-story food forest, automated, and give all the food away to the residents nearby. So the folks who are struggling the most in our area and affected by violence and racism and inequality and just also cycles. I mean, these folks also, they admit too, that you get into cycles and then you repeat it. It's like, it's a lot of things that make it hard to live there. But what if your food bill was gone? No more food bill, and it was healthy, regenerative shit, like filled with nutrients, and you would like, could, better your health in many ways, and it was free forever in those areas, say. Like, that's something I would do. But like, that's also, like, I feel, now that I am hearing about other examples of this is like paternalism.
Yeah, and my first reaction was it doesn't necessarily need to be free, just affordable. Because a lot of these communities, like we mentioned, are food deserts. They don't have anything like that. So you could, they just need seed money to at least get it going, and then
talk
find
about
out
prices for quality organic greens.
Yeah, and make it affordable.
$1.50 get you a pile of greens. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, you can come in
saying.
and because then you might actually make it somewhat sustainable where it could live in forever.
If I was rich, I'd rather give it away to my human race. But I want to have less losers, as Joe Rogan says.
But if it's cost neutral, you have more money to give away in other areas too.
Okay, Mr. Good Idea. Okay, Mr. Smart Guy.
No, that's definitely a great idea. But
okay. If I gave you $30 million,
mm-hmm.
and I was like,
I accept.
Neil, not only do you need to provide you and your daughter a fabulous life,
mm-hmm.
but you also need to use some of that money to make our area here better for the poor people. How would you do it? Rich people are fine.
There's actually there's. Before we go there, I would say that there are things that we can do just as a society that doesn't require a rich dude, or a savior. So if I had $30 million, I mean, schools, opportunities, it's hard to say for sure. I mean, me personally?
I'm gonna pause right
Okay,
there.
yeah.
So, Neil, you were given 30,000 million. No, just $30 million,
Mm-hmm.
which is modestly large. And I know that you would want to provide a life for you and your daughter that was like fair and clean and good.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves a lot of cheddar left over for
Yeah.
you to be a philanthropist in your 50s and 60s. And, you know, so like, tell me, like, when you think about, say you had the power to do so, what would you think about leaning towards philanthropy-wise?
Well, I think $30 million is not a large amount scale-wise. I know what you're saying, so
yeah.
you can affect your like community.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
okay. Food is huge. I think what you're talking about is some kind of, you know, fresh, healthy food in places that are
Organic,
food
clean,
deserts.
whole foods.
Yeah,
for
and
people.
it doesn't
For poor
necessarily,
people.
and it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, free, but you can set up a really good co-op or something like that where stuff is happening. $30 million. I'm not a businessman enough to know what that would actually
You
cost.
steal
but
my dream, my philanthropy dream?
I would, yeah.
You have to think of your own, Neil. That's not.
You know, actually, my personal thing, what I really like, and I think is a real problem, is support for artists. You know,
Oh,
there's no, if you play in a band, there's no place to rehearse. You know, if you're an artist and you need some space, because some artists need more than just a little corner in their apartment. You know, it's too expensive. They don't get paid well. There's not enough places for art to be displayed. I don't know. So some kind of arts collective, like a
more, because I
Zoetrope
would want that.
Studios or something. Yeah, something like Coppola did or something, but on a small, sort of more punk scale. You know, just a
Like,
space.
could you see yourself like you'd open maybe like a rehearsal space for loud and grindy and, you know, like artists, but it's not convenient.
Yeah, well, everything. I mean, we'd have rehearsal spaces. We'd have like a sound stage with, you know, green screens set up and lighting brackets and lights so people could make
Would you have a
videos.
performance area?
Sure, maybe a cafe.
Would you have a like maybe a small scale brewery on site?
Funny you should ask. Do I know anyone who could do a small scale brewery? But absolutely, yeah. Anything like, you know, just a space where people can go. It doesn't cost them a lot of money. They can store their supplies or whatever, and they can work. And I every time I run into musicians and other people, it's just a problem. You know, it's got to pay a lot of money,
Yeah, yeah.
and you got to schlep all the way down to West Oakland or something, and it shouldn't be. There's so many abandoned buildings and stuff that are around, and I know coding is a problem, but anyway, I think for $30 million, maybe not all of it, for a couple of million, set up some kind of nonprofit collective that's locally managed and has space and can expand over time as need grows. Because we do need artists.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's like, is that so different from what Jeff Bezos wants?
I don't know.
It's not that different. Because he's hiring engineer artists to fabricate a rocket ship
Right.
so humans can live on Mars. Your idea to make art for our culture, I think, is as valuable, because I actually want to take your philanthropy idea and turn it into a potentially in my lifetime business idea. I've said this before, you know, on the podcast and other mediums. Like, I envision, and there's actually a building just across the street here that would work, a rehearsal studio, essentially. It would be licensed as a rehearsal space for musicians, and you would have several, if not many, like independent rooms for loud music rehearsal. There would be a couple of other rooms too. One room would be a performance space with a stage, so there'd be like lights and a stage and a PA and like a way to perform lots of things, be it comedy, be it music, be it many things.
Yeah.
One of the rooms would be a homebrew club. And those who rehearse at the space or were at the venue for a show could, say, temporarily join the homebrew club for a nominal fee and enjoy the wares, and it would be just fine.
I think that's great. Any kind of tying it all in, and you would have artists on site who could write your jingles for your products if you make them, or I don't know.
I don't know what products we make. We may make products that I eventually will. I actually do have products in mind to make. But I'm saying the space of, if you had a warehouse, you had a bunch of bands rehearsing, one of the rooms was a homebrew club,
Yeah.
and one of the larger spaces was a stage performance area. I think it would be full all the time. I think there'd be a waiting list to get in there.
I think so too. I mean, most of those rehearsal studios have a huge waiting list to get in.
3 years at OMC.
Yeah. So, you know, I love it, especially if there's like a steady side of it. Like if you can get a steady income from monthly lockouts from musicians renting the
keep them
space,
gear and everything.
and you've got that done, and then you
Can't
can
live there,
expand
goddamn
over
it.
time. No, yeah, and you expand over time. And I was thinking the homebrew thing for me, when I think of that, I think of like people also learning how to do it too. You know, an opportunity for like a kid in the neighborhood to learn about brewing and then maybe go off and work for Sierra Nevada someday or something.
Of course. I think learning, that's really, okay, that's an important point. Maybe the business plan needs a learning element. I have an idea to have festivals where learning is like a main part of the festival. But having a business plan in a rehearsal space, I mean, of course you'd have like people giving lessons, that's happening everywhere. But yeah, I mean, if you join the homebrew club, obviously you get to go to the brew days and they're listed. You don't have to go, but
Yeah.
you can go, right? It would be this. I would just use this stuff here, the stuff I have here. That's plenty.
Yeah. I
And
I think
actually,
it's a good idea.
what I could produce from this could provide like up to half, if not more, of the necessary income of a space like that. So it's like, we can-
Really?
yeah. Oh yeah. So if you take that plus the rehearsal fees, like you can really go. You can be really sure that it's going to work.
Hope so. I mean, I don't actually don't know as much about. I don't know much at all about it.
Do
I'm
you
gonna
know
start
any
hanging
re-
out.
Do you know any rehearsal spaces where you can store your gear there that are available right now?
I don't think so, from what I'm hearing.
Right.
Right.
So what I'm hearing is you're on board.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. But I also wanted to also be more than that.
Well, yeah,
Rehearsal
what do you
space.
see?
Places where artists can work, you know, that has like a working sink, and places where you can dispose solvents, you know, for what you do. A
Interesting.
sound stage, you know, that is pretty good with actual like doors that are soundproofed. And if you're a member of the collective, it doesn't cost you hardly anything to go rent it out. And when it's not being used by a member of the collective, you can rent it out to other people for a higher price.
I'm liking everything you're saying.
Well, let's work on a business plan.
Okay, yeah, totally.
By our next podcast,
Mhm.
we'll be looking for venture capitalists.
Wait, I've got some 401k. I mean, don't you've got some too,
We're gonna
right?
bet our retirement on this?
Yeah.
No. You said if I had a $30 million, when are you gonna give me the $30 million?
Well, I think some of the fun of thinking about winning the lottery
Yeah.
is for me extrapolating what I can do with that now.
Do you play the lottery?
No.
I do. When it gets really big, I do.
So
And
does
you know,
everyone.
but I don't. I know I'm
Me
never.
too, even,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. I'm never gonna win. I realize I'm not gonna win. But for that like 24 or 36
It's
hours,
fun.
you're holding it in your wallet. You're thinking,
What if?
what would I do with $500 million?
Oh my god! If you had 500, that's a different story. If you had 500,
Well, that's what I
million,
mean. When it gets up to that level, like, well, yeah,
You're like
that's
buying islands and
that's a
shit.
problem I'll worry about.
Although maybe we should empathize on problems we need to worry about. What's more down to earth? Where are we here on planet Earth that empathy and/or imagination could help us with?
I don't know. I told you I'm having a crisis of conscience about that already. Maybe there's no point.
Well, let's talk about
But-
that. What is that?
Wait, what was the question again? Maybe I'm taking this wrong direction.
If you thought there was something to focus on
Hmm.
in intellectual conversation around empathy and imagination,
Okay.
that was instead less about the extra potential wealth and more about the concerted person reality, what would that be?
I guess I'm a huge fan of art, music. I think that distinguishes us from the animals, and it helps us understand people that we are not. It gives you that different perspective. And when you want to talk about empathy, I think that is hugely important, you know, to have people write stories or portray things that can take us out of our own head and maybe have some freaking empathy or sympathy for someone else who maybe might need some help or something. So when you're going back, when you were talking about that collective, and you said like an arts collective is similar to what like Bezos is doing, I would argue not, because if you had a collective, you've got people in there that might grow up someday and be Pablo Picasso or Charles Bukowski or Sia or something like that. People who might go on and actually really, you know, affect a lot of people's lives, whether it's a song that you dance to at your wedding. I think the potential impact, I mean, I know it's a small local thing, is much bigger than paying scientists to find a more effective way to get a large payload into orbit.
Interesting point. I think they both have points. I think you're both right. I think you're as right as Bezos is right.
Well, you know, if he's holding an open mic in his orbital hotel or whatever he's building, then you know it'd be good. There's musicians up there.
We'll perform there.
Yes,
you and me.
yes.
What song will we do?
Oh
what
no,
instrument am
you
I
can't
playing?
rocket me out of orbit.
Me
Not cost
either,
efficient.
bro.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
We can Skype in.
Yeah, we'll Skype into Mars, I guess. We have daughters and stuff, so we gotta like take care of them, I guess.
That's apparently our role now.
Apparently,
Huh? Yeah, I think so.
We're parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Silent, awkward silence.
Yeah, that's fine.
Holy shit, we're parents.
Yeah. What do you do? Well, you just have one. I'm about to have two.
Yeah.
Some deep shit.
No, I actually think you're better if you've got siblings, because the older sister will help you out.
Yes. In our case, they're 13 months apart, so it's like when one's 6, one will be 7. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There won't be so much
Yeah,
of the helping out.
It'll be mostly the fighting.
It's going to be mostly fighting. Mostly twinish fighting is kind of what I'm
Yep.
expecting.
Yep.
Because when there's one's 8, one's 9, one's 9, one's 10, one's 10, one's 11. That's going to be the whole thing.
Well, you just have to have a little brother for him to take care of.
I'm not doing that. If I had a little brother for them to take care of, I agree it might be easier. I am not doing that.
Well, I have empathy for you, brother.
Appreciate your imagination.
Daughters are good. I was lucky. She was great. You'll have a good time, and June's a sweetheart.
I already am.
Till the teenage years.
And then what?
I don't know. I'll be dead.
Your daughter's already a teenager.
Yeah, get your advice from me now. No, when your kids are teenagers.
You won't be dead. You'll be alive. You'll be strong. You'll be like winning arm wrestling championships.
Oh, have you seen that slapping stuff they've done?
Oh my
I'm
God.
thinking I could take a hit. I can take a
Seriously?
hit. You know, yeah. I'm thinking.
Have you taken a hit before?
Yeah, I can. Oh, I can take a hit. I just don't
What's
know if
the
I
time
can
when
dish
you've
it out.
taken a hit? When's the time? Tell me a story.
I'm not getting on that on record.
Okay. Okay.
But I do think it's not fair, because some of the participants have like thick beards, and I think beards protects you
it's a
too
cushion.
much. Yeah, they
I would grow
should
my beard
require
out.
yeah. But man, just the guys standing there bracing themselves. Oh, it's coming. Holy crap.
I mostly have only seen the videos where there's the one big guy who has the dead eyes. And he's not slapping men as much as he has figured out how to punch sideways.
Yeah.
And it's
right.
more like a punch.
Yeah, and I think they're using the palm.
Yeah.
Instead of.
And then they
slap.
had this other guy who had this like weird contact in his eye, and he tried to slap the big man, but it was so pathetic that it was like he clearly hadn't practiced that part of the craft.
That would be my problem.
And then then the smaller man who had the contact lens was struck by the larger man with the dead eyes. And the smaller man with the contact lenses fell to the ground immediately. It wasn't really a contest. It was more like, watch this guy lose.
Yeah. You know, just appreciating the pinnacle of human achievement.
Yeah.
slapping competition.
Well, I mean, Pinnacle, it's sort of like that's a lane of Pinnacle. Like bowling is a lane of Pinnacle. You know what I mean? Like, if a human can take a slap to the face and, like, continue a contest by slapping another in the face, I mean, like,
Well,
I think men, maybe even more than women, know that that would be
that's-
very
well,
difficult.
how do they decide who goes first? Because that would make a huge difference.
There's got to be a coin toss. There's got
I'm a much better slapper if I have not just been slapped. I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, you want to go first, right?
Well, how effective is the open palm to the skin? Like, if you think about
No,
it.
I think they're using the heel.
Do you lick the
If you
palm?
use
I would lick the
heel-
palm.
If you do the heel on the cheekbone, these guys are getting brain damage.
It's all about how far can you swing. I mean, if your arm is at full length, you don't have that much power. If I'm like this, I have a ton of power. But like way out here, I mean, what do you got? There's not much. Just a little bit of a slap, you know. I don't know.
Let's experiment.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Why are we talking about face slapping competitions?
Because you said
'Cause I brought it up.
You would win at them.
Just because take a hit. I think it's important as a man to know if you can take a hit or not, right?
I have not been punched in the face as an adult man.
As a kid,
Yeah, I got.
Right.
Yeah, but
And-
not
and
as
you-
not
right.
as an adult. That's different.
and you survived. You know you can do that. I think that makes a difference. That's how I like learned how to deal with bullies. You know, it's just like
Were you
I think-
bullied?
for a brief period in like the 7th grade, got on the radar of some guy. But
Yeah, I had on and on. I wasn't up bullied a lot, but it was off and on. Like,
were
remember,
you like 8 feet tall when you were in
No,
elementary
I was
school?
a little
Little
kid.
guy,
I
right.
didn't actually sprout until the junior year of high school.
Oh,
I was short as a sophomore, even.
man.
5'5", 5'6", I don't know.
You were one of those guys who went away for summer, like between
Yes.
sophomore and junior year.
I
And
came back as a fucking
grown
giant,
up.
and then teachers were like, "Oh fuck."
I remember those.
I grew like 10 inches in the summer.
Nice.
It's painful, actually.
But you've probably not had any problems with bullies since then.
No, the bullies actually happened when I was called terrible names. I played basketball every year, and my teammates would bully me. So it was like a kind of a tough situation. I got called names. I was slow. I was overweight. You know, this was, you can picture it. I unfortunately turned that into not, I guess it was sort of bullying of another person. Like, I received a bunch of that, and then I channeled some of it at somebody else.
That's natural. We're primates. That's what we do.
I really wish I hadn't.
I know. I know.
I really wish I would have just zenned it into meditation and, you know, just was
Who
nice
knows
to
that?
everyone.
Who knows that when you're 16 years old
I
or
didn't.
whatever? Of course not.
So I called this guy terrible names, and at the time it was very funny. But I'm sure he experienced it as bullying. Now that I, of course, look back.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn, that's also. I definitely may or may not have participated in certain vandalism acts as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old person.
Why say may or may not? Why
Well-
not just say you did and you regret it?
Okay, yeah, I did, and I regret it.
Right. I had lots of things I had. We were young and stupid.
Did you break stuff?
No.
Not on the
Mm,
record. I'm just, I mean, we can.
No. But I remember, like, in elementary school, and there was, you know, I had, I don't know, mentally handicapped kid, and everyone was kind of mean to him, and I remember not, like, I don't think I was mean to him, but not at least being nice. I kind of regret that looking back.
Yeah.
But I was never anyone who like teased people so much. But you know, it's pack mentality. You're with a bunch of guys or something like that, and someone walks, and people start making comments, and it's kind of hard to go, "Hey guys, come on, he's a person just like us." When you're young, you know. Then you get older, and then you do that. You hear someone say something stupid. It's like, why the fuck are you saying that about him? You don't know anything about him. He might be a cool dude, but you don't know that when you're 16.
Riddle me this. I was younger. I was like middle school, 6th grade, something like that. And I had befriended this young man who was actually friends with no one. His name was John Goldman. John Goldman was in Redwood City, and he lived with his dad. I think his mom had passed. And John Goldman looked strange and acted strange and didn't have any friends besides me and one other person. And I'll tell you about that one other person a little bit later. But like, this guy, he had a massive coin collection. And he was very proud of it. And it was like, we were, 12. No one thought that was cool. But he got me to come over to his house, and I was like, he cares about this. Whatever it is, he cares about it. The thing that was about John that was unique was that some summer, a few years before I met him, he had shot a gun and had reflected off of something and got him in his eye.
Ow.
He took a bullet to the eye as a child, and forever since has had to wear protective goggles at school all the time, and has had one of his eyes is basically just kind of grayed over. It's like silver and pointing his direction. There's not, and the other one works. But he's lived with that, and socially that was hard for him.
Yeah.
I saw past that, no pun intended, and I was like, I could tell he was intelligent, and he thought about things. And we were buddies, and me and this one other guy were his only friends, and it didn't matter to me. We just, we talked and it was cool.
Was this high school?
No, this is middle school.
No.
He taught me about fast walking, which is essentially like
I love that.
Well, he was like, oh no, his was weirder, where like you crouch down and bend the knee and take longer
Yes,
steps.
but the determination on their faces
Yes.
is just really
He was
cute.
trying to convince me that this was actually the better mode of travel than
No,
walking.
It actually is. Apparently,
No.
it's efficient.
Or
nerd.
everyone would do it. Or everyone would do it.
Well, they would if they didn't look so silly when they did.
But if you get low and take long steps,
yep.
like if you take the whole like
So he
vertical,
did that through
yeah.
the neighborhood?
Yes.
See,
This didn't work well socially for him.
yeah, no, somebody pick up a better hobby like
So,
tap dancing.
so I was like, but I knew to see past that, because I knew like he was a smart guy thinking of things, and I befriended him. And now I'm going to tell you about the other guy who made friends with me, because this is the part of the story I did not expect at all. A couple years ago, I go to Burning Man. I set up my camp. My friends find me. They set up camp next to me. We have this enormous start to our city. Maybe 2 days in, I'm walking behind my camp just to meet my neighbors and say hello. And I run into a person, and I go, hey, how's it going? My name's Andrew, and I forget his name. I don't know his name. He's like, oh, where are you from? I was like, actually, I was born in Redwood City, and he's like, oh, did you go to, where'd you go? Oh, I went to Taft Elementary. He's like, oh. We figured out that was the other fucking friend of John Goldman at Burning Man. When I went to Burning Man, my neighbor there was the other guy who was the only friend of John Goldman. We were meant to camp together. And to
Where
reconnect.
was the school? I mean, where did you go to school?
We went to school at Taft Elementary in Redwood City, California.
Okay, so the fact you were at Burning Man together is, I get it, okay.
Yeah. So we had, in the dark, I set up camp. I don't know where the fuck I am. I go to meet my neighbors a couple days in, and I found out that this guy knew John Goldman. And he was like, oh, you were the only other friend that he had. And we met at Burning Man. And we exchanged like peach cup, and I gave him honey wine or something. It was like,
So what happened to John?
I don't know. I would love to reconnect with John Goldman. John, if you hear this, or anyone who knows John,
It's possible.
like, seriously, I would love to have him on the podcast. Oh my god, that would be an absolute honor. I'm sure he's doing like investment banking, or he's IT genius. I'm sure it's something like that. Like, he was sharp. And I was attracted to that socially, really sharp people.
Well, it's good you saw. It's not easy for people to see. Again, we really got to give ourselves a freaking break for how we
Yeah,
act.
give yourself a break.
No, really. I think, nobody likes being accused of being, not nice or whatever and stuff. And, the fact is, we've probably all been not nice at some point, especially when we're young. There's a meme going around, a quote from Carl Jung that says, life really does begin after 40. Everything up until then is just rehearsal. And it's true. You're
Well,
you're
I'm
learning
almost
about
ready.
things.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're
way
living.
past rehearsal.
So I'm not quite alive
I haven't
yet, then.
rehearsed in years.
I'm still rehearsing.
Yeah, but
Wow.
it's very true. We're learning. I mean, you can't. We don't learn everything, especially from our parents. They were
Yeah.
not perfect,
No.
and I think sometimes people just sort of get defensive and everything. But just realize, like, I treated someone like an asshole when I was younger. I feel bad about it. Well, I don't do it anymore because I learned.
That's the best thing.
Yeah. So that's also the beauty of being a human, and separates us again from the animals, is that we can learn, we can change. Animals are going to probably do the same thing over and over again, but we can learn.
That separates us.
Although crows are pretty smart.
They're
I'm just
using
kidding.
tools now.
A lot of animals can learn,
No,
but you know what I mean.
Their cousin, whatever, they're using like tools made from tools. Now.
Yeah.
It's getting deep.
Crows are awesome. I think Planet of Apes is wrong. I think it's Planet of the Crows.
Uh,
I think they'll come back and they'll be in charge.
are you familiar with Duncan Trussell's Family Hour?
No.
There's a whole constellation of worship around crows in this
believe it.
podcast.
I believe it.
Yeah, and I wonder if you would enjoy the comedy around crow worship.
Is it a comedy thing?
Well, Duncan Trussell is a comedian, but his podcast is way more psychedelic than any other podcast.
Oh, okay.
He like invents weird, like harmonized and octavized psycho music
Okay.
that he clearly makes by himself on a computer, and he puts weird words that are sensical but odd, and those are like his intros.
Okay. Well, let me send me the link, or
Yeah.
actually, post the link.
I'll post the
Check it out.
link. Yeah.
I do. Crows are awesome.
But they're like
Smart.
his merch, like they have merch. It's around like crow's milk, like don't drink crow's milk.
Crow's
do-
milk?
Like crow's milk, don't drink it. Do drink it. Like he has created a dichotomy around should you drink crow's milk or is crow's milk the enemy? It's good.
Okay.
Duncan Trussell's Family Hour. That's it's. But the podcast is sort of hard to listen to sometimes because he's always on that mushroom tip. Basically.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well,
just
check it out.
it's thick.
Check it out. I do like crows.
I listen to it, so it is. So you have been experiencing a world, and you've been frustrated by some of those elements. Is that correct?
Yeah. Why you haven't been?
Well, no, I have been. Now,
Okay.
I'm also thinking you have had certain ideas about potentially addressing some of those crappy things. Is that accurate?
Oh, you mean my existential crisis of conscience about whether even to try to make the world a better place or just sit back and watch it burn and make out with a nice woman?
Keep going.
No, that's it.
It's short.
No, it's going to take time to reflect on that, but yeah, I don't know.
You could write protest music, or
could.
you could write Bananas and Blow.
Yeah, I know, and it's always it's hard when I sit down with the guitar. Am I going to write about my Gucci gang, or am I going to write about peace, love, and understanding?
Are you Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci? Are you Gucci gang?
I am for money.
Yeah, aren't we all? So it's still they're not wrong, right?
Yeah, but the irony is, I think, completely lost.
I don't think it is. I think actually the diamond rappers are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's all a brand kind of thing, right? It's like
their own virility and popularity works just as well to speak the message of what you're trying to say. It just does it subtly, and it does it in the next generation. It will do it. They are winning at what you want to. The message is working. Like extreme excess is fun for a while,
Yeah.
and then it is not.
Okay, but they're only singing about how it's fun. They're not singing about
Doesn't
how
matter.
it's not.
All the people who are watching them
Mm.
are going to continue watching them, and when it isn't, it will be obvious 100% of the time, and always is. So this is, to me, socially speaking, I enjoy trap.
Enjoy what?
Trap. Modern like Migos, Soulja Boy, Lil Uzi.
Okay.
You know, I actually like the beats. Musically, they appeal to the metal mind in me.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are so absurd about wealth and excess and waste that it's like the exhaust out of the zeitgeist machine. It's like comedy.
Yeah, except they don't, it's serious to them.
It won't be for long and not for everyone.
Well,
it can't
okay.
be. It is now, but watch. It won't be for long. Everyone
no.
will look at this and go, wow. Eventually.
No, that is true. It is, yeah, it will be the document of the last gasp of hyper-capitalism, for sure.
I got diamonds on my teeth and I'm buying everything and the bitches are flowing and there's no possible downside, and it's like no one ever mentions that there's no possible downside.
Yeah. There's no, like, Scarface moment. You know?
There will be.
Say hello to my people.
Well, it's like,
Yeah, I think you're right. There are going to be a lot of really like somber, reflective records with down-tempo beats in 10 years about all these guys who can't get their Gucci gang together anymore.
right? I agree. I agree.
That's a good place to stop.